Hi, it's Emma Holmes here from the Small Business Franchise Association, and I'm just going to talk through a little query that I had today. And we were talking about a lady who provides a service-based industry to children, and we were talking about getting into schools and that age-old problem of getting past the school secretary, the gatekeeper to the school, and how difficult it is to actually get your message into schools to see whether or not they're interested in the services that you provide. So, what we talked about first and foremost was that this lady had started calling schools. Effectively, because the schools hadn't heard of her before, hadn't had any contact with her before, it's the same principles as cold calling. And Kim Duke, who did a webinar for us recently, spoke about cold calling and the fact that cold calling only has a 2% success rate. So that's a 98% failure rate. Is there anything in your life that you would accept a 2% success rate? Would you go to your hairdresser 50 times in order to get one good haircut? I don't think you would. I think you would think that that was a complete and utter waste of time. We also spoke about sending correspondence into schools and the fact that that's extremely expensive. By the time you've printed all your information out and you've bought stamps, you've spent an awful lot of money. And I've seen this done by franchisees before who've spent incredible amounts of money to get no leads whatsoever into schools. So you've got to think about doing things a slightly different way. You've got to think outside of the box, and perhaps one thing to look at would be to look at an area of schools. And in the UK, schools generally work in school clusters where a number of schools work very closely together in order to ensure best practice and to talk through suggestions and ideas. And whether you actually look at a school cluster to spend some time working on, to go into the schools, to see whether or not they're interested. Don't leave your information if they're not, because it'll go straight in the bin. Nobody else will see it. You'll end up, again, spending money on printing that you're not going to use. But what you might want to do is you might want to pop in with some information. You could, the example that we talked about, you could take a tea bag and an individually wrapped cake and say, yoga's all about relaxation, or we want to help you in order to give your children the best possible varied curriculum. Sit down, have a cup of tea, have a slice of cake, have a look at what we've got to offer you. There's no obligation, just have a look and see what you think. Always use recommendations. So if you're already working in a school or a nursery, make sure that you use their recommendations to help you to achieve other schools. You might want to look at including a school section on your mailing list, and you might want to offer a freebie to schools and to teachers, a blueprint about something that you offer. And if you do children's yoga, it might be 10 top tips to calm down your class. Or if you do arts and crafts sessions, it might be how we can help you enhance your curriculum. Whatever type of sessions you do, you can put together a free report that schools could use, and you could share that on your social media. And you might find that a lot of your followers are teachers. You might find that you can ask people to share your status to cover more teachers. You know, it's surprising how many people do have teachers as friends. You know, even if you don't, I know that I've got probably about 6 personal friends who are teachers, and I wouldn't say that I knew a lot of teachers, but that just seems to be how it's happened. So you could offer a free report. You could start adding value in the same way as you do with any customers. You could start adding value. You could start sharing things. You can start to establish yourself as an expert and provide them with special offers that you could provide to their school. You might want to spend 1 week just jam-packed full of free sessions in schools to see what people thought. And the worst thing that can happen is you've wasted that week, but you can always get the recommendations that you can use again. They will also know who you are for if they need to use you in the future. In the UK as well, a lot of schools have a pupil premium payment for some of their children from more deprived backgrounds, and it may be that your service might help them to enhance those children and to use that payment to secure your services within school. It might be that you do activities within school hours, you might do a lunchtime activity, you might do an after school activity, but perhaps they can use their pupil premium to assist in the payment of the activity that you use. Another way of looking at it is to see who you know that are parents in schools and whether you can get information to the school via a parent of one of the children that are attending the school, because that's another good option, or PTA or PFA members to get your information into schools. It sadly is very difficult to get into schools via cold calling. The school secretaries in most schools are the most magnificent of gatekeepers, and they're very difficult to get past if they don't want you to provide any further information into schools. They'll get hundreds and hundreds of phone calls of different products and services, whether that be people trying to sell books into the schools, whether that's people trying to sell sports equipment. You know, there will be an awful lot of sales traffic coming through the school telephones. So you really need to think outside the box and think of a different way to get in front of your school audience. So they're just a few things for you to think about on speaking to schools and how to get your services into the school arena. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to shout. Bye for now.